Winter on the Great Plains was not a season. It was a test. Winds strong enough to peel skin from bone swept across open land with no trees, no stone houses, and really no margin for error. Temperatures plunged far below freezing for weeks at a time. For anyone unprepared, exposure meant death, often in a single night. Yet Native American families lived, slept and raised children through these conditions, inside structures many modern observers dismiss as primitive. If you're enjoying this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. The teepee was not primitive. It was refined by generations who learned the land the hard way. This guide breaks down how Native Americans slept warmly in teepees, not through luck or toughness, but through deliberate engineering, thermal awareness, and survival discipline. If modern infrastructure disappeared tomorrow, these principles would still work. The teepee's shape was a calculated response to wind and snow. The conical form was not chosen for aesthetics or convenience. It was chosen because it worked. Wind striking a flat wall creates pressure, leaks, and collapse. Wind striking a cone flows around it. The teepee shed gusts instead of fighting them. Snow did not pile on the roof. It slid down the sides. The circular floor eliminated cold corners and allowed heat to circulate evenly. Poles were angled to flex rather than snap under load. Everything about the structure was designed for weather that punished mistakes. A teepee was anchored tightly to the ground, sealed low in winter, and oriented with its entrance away from prevailing winds. It was light enough to move, but strong enough to endure blizzards that buried wagons and froze soldiers in place. Fire was controlled, not indulged, and that control made survival possible. A teepee fire was never a roaring blaze. It was a managed heat source built low and central. The goal was steady warmth, not flames. Smoke rose naturally along the cone, exiting through adjustable smoke flaps at the top. These flaps were the key. They were angled based on wind direction, drawing smoke out while trapping heat inside. Too much fire meant choking smoke. Too little meant creeping cold. Families learned this balance through experience, not theory. At night, embers were banked beneath ash so they stayed alive until morning. A single stir could revive heat without relighting from scratch. The shelter never went fully cold, and that continuity mattered more than raw temperature. The ground was treated as the primary threat to body heat. Cold air is dangerous, but frozen ground is deadly. Heat drains downward faster than most people realize. Native Americans understood this long before insulation had a name. The floor of a winter teepee was layered intentionally. Brush, reeds or willow mats formed the base, lifting sleepers off bare soil. Over that came thick buffalo hides or fur robes. These layers trapped air, creating insulation identical in principle to modern sleeping pads. No one slept directly on the ground. Children were cushioned deepest. Elders were raised closer to warmth. This system prevented heat loss and conserved energy overnight when the body is most vulnerable. Buffalo hides functioned as wind armor and thermal walls. Buffalo hide was one of the most effective insulating materials available on the plains. Dense hair blocked wind. Thick skin reduced heat loss. Even when damp, it retained warmth better than woven cloth. Teepees wrapped in buffalo hides created a sealed environment that resisted drafts and stabilized interior temperature. Inside, families layered themselves in robes made from deer, elk, or buffalo, trapping air close to the body. This was not excess. It was necessity. The buffalo was food, shelter, bedding, and warmth in one. Without it, winter survival would have been impossible at scale. Shared body heat turned families into living heating systems. Survival in winter was communal by design. Multiple people slept in a single teepee, arranged deliberately around the fire. Children were placed between adults. Infants were swaddled in fur and kept close to parents. Elders stayed nearest the heat source. A dozen bodies radiating warmth created a microclimate that no single person could maintain alone. Privacy was sacrificed for survival, and no one questioned the trade. Modern survival manuals call this heat sharing. Plains tribes treated it as common sense. Interior liners transformed the teepee into a double-walled shelter. In winter, many teepees used an inner lining made of additional hides hung several feet from the outer wall. This created a trapped airspace that dramatically reduced heat loss, kind of like modern insulated walls or double-pane windows. Cold air entering near the ground was slowed and warmed before reaching sleeping areas. Moisture was managed instead of allowed to freeze on interior surfaces. This lining also reflected heat inward, improving efficiency without burning more fuel. Adaptability made the teepee effective across seasons. A teepee was not a fixed structure, it was adjustable. In summer, sides could be raised for airflow. In winter, everything was sealed tight. Smoke flaps were repositioned constantly based on wind and temperature. Fire size changed with conditions. Bedding thickness increased or decreased as needed. The structure responded to weather rather than resisting it blindly. That flexibility is what kept families alive through unpredictable storms. The lesson modern people forget is that survival is about principles, not technology. Native Americans did not survive winter because they were tougher. They survived because they understood heat, airflow, insulation, and cooperation. They respected the environment instead of fighting it. The teepee was not a tent. It was a survival system refined through generations who paid for mistakes with their lives. If this breakdown changed how you see historical survival, share it with someone who thinks modern gear is the only answer. Subscribe to WARFRONT Survival for more hard lessons pulled straight from history, and stay ready. When systems fail, knowledge is what keeps you alive.